All right, so I'm just gonna come right out of the gate with 3 of my favorite tools that will help you stay more productive and efficient when you are working from home. The first one is Todoist, the second one is Dashlane, and the third one is Hyper Focus, which is an app for Mac, or Freedom, which is an app for Mac and Windows. Now, Todoist is a tool that I use to write out all of my tasks, set deadlines for myself, and prioritize them. You can also add team members so you can pass tasks, leave comments, and set deadlines for them as well. It has been a game changer. So Dashlane is the encrypted password keeper that I use to generate unhackable passwords, store them, and automatically fill them into every single page I need to log into. You really only have to memorize one password so you can log into Dashlane and they will take care of the rest. It's a massive shortcut. And Hyperfocus is a free app for Mac users that lets you block distracting websites like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. You set a time limit, and once that time limit expires, it will unblock them. Freedom is another great option because you can use it on Mac and Windows. You can also use it on all browsers, your iPhone, and Android. It is a paid tool though, so that's one you will have to use. What's going on, guys? Trav White here. Welcome back to my channel, and today I got 7 tips for you guys to stay super productive while you're working from home through this whole coronavirus craziness. Let's get into it. Oh, yeah. All right, so if you're like most of the world right now, coronavirus has isolated you from everything and everyone. Google and Amazon have mandated every one of their employees work from home. Schools are closing or moving online, but you still gotta work. You got bills to pay, you got deadlines to meet. So I've worked from home for the past 5 years, and I thought I would share my experience on how to stay productive. And before I get into what those tips are, I will say that one tip is discipline is going to be the most important piece here. But I know that willpower is a fleeting resource. So there are hacks you can do that will help set up your environment when willpower isn't working. So tip number 1 I have for you is you have to designate a space to go to work. You should treat working from home the exact same way as going to work. The only difference is, instead of getting in a car and driving to work, you're walking into another room to go to work. If you set up your desk or your laptop in the same place you relax, like the living room or the bedroom, you will slack off. You need 2 different environments. This will also come in handy when your workday ends because you'll be able to leave work and go to your relaxing space. I do have an office space. Here's a picture of the door to my office. I can't enter unless I'm ready to work my ass off. If you have a 1-bedroom, I would dedicate a section of your house or your apartment to be your workspace, like a corner, or maybe just have your dining room be your workspace for now, and then have a relaxed space that's clearly separated. So if you don't follow anything else from this video, this is the most important piece, is to separate those 2. All right, tip number 2 is to still get dressed and go to work. Yes, and I'll tell you why. Northwestern University did a study in 2012 where they first introduced a term called enclothed cognition. This study determined how clothing influenced the wearer's psychology. So basically they ran 3 experiments. They asked a group of people to perform attention-related tasks without wearing a lab coat, and then also with wearing a lab coat. When they wore that white lab coat, they performed significantly higher. But the scientists were kind of confused. They didn't understand. They wanted to know why. So they ran a second experiment, and this was the lab coat versus the doctor's coat. So they asked the subjects to do similar attention-related tasks, and they gave them the exact same lab coat, but this time they were told it was a doctor's coat. So the result was they scored way higher when they thought that it was a doctor's coat versus just a lab coat. And then the third experiment was they gave the exact same coat again, but this time they were told that it was a painter's smock. And the results, they performed worse than experiment 1. So the conclusion was that the influence clothing has on the wearer's psychology comes down to 2 things. It comes down to actually wearing the clothing and the symbolic meaning attached to it. So what the heck does enclosed cognition mean for you when you work from home? It means that dressing up for work isn't just to maintain that level of professionalism with your colleagues. It also puts you in a different state of mind. If you're wearing sweatpants or pajamas, the symbolism attached to those items tells your brain it's time to relax. But when you wear clothes that symbolize work, your brain is going to perform at a higher level. So dress up for work. It's science. All right, tip number 3 is to wake up a little bit earlier for alone time. Back when I worked in corporate, my alone time usually came from my commute. I would listen to an audiobook or a podcast, I would get my mind right and prepare for the day. And when I sat down at my desk, it was chaos, emails, Slack notifications, Basecamp assignments just flying in. And that alone time that I had before was vital to my productivity. So when you work from home, the biggest mistake that you can make, and I know this because I made it, is you wake up and you just dive right into work. You don't take time for yourself. You got to be intentional about waking up 45, 60 minutes earlier and then having like a manufactured commute to work. And just use this time for yourself. You know, use it to read, to meditate, to exercise, to have a coffee. It primes you for the day so you're not stressed out immediately. So tip number 4 is to turn your phone or your laptop on do not disturb mode and then knock out some Pomodoro techniques. If you don't know what a Pomodoro technique is, it's the best way to get things done, and it's basically 6 steps. Step number 1 is to choose your priority 1 task, which you can get from the Todoist tool that I mentioned in the beginning. Then you're gonna set a timer for 25 minutes, work distraction-free for 25 minutes straight, and then take a short break, and then repeat. And then after every 4 Pomodoros, you wanna take a little bit of a longer break. But to add another layer, putting your laptop and your phone on do not disturb mode really makes those 25-minute sprints super productive, because it's really easy. You know, imagine you're back in a cubicle at work and it's easy to get distracted, but at least you have team members and you have your boss and they're walking around, and you know, just by the fact of them being there holds you accountable. Imagine being home alone with no one to tell you what to do, no one to answer to, and you got Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, TikTok videos all coming in at you. So the hardest thing to do when working from home is to stay focused. So in addition to the hyper focus app that I mentioned in the beginning, the do not disturb mode will help you stay laser focused on your task as well. All right, moving on. Tip number 5 I have is to work out at 2:30 p.m. So your most productive hours are going to be between 8 and 11 a.m. It's when your mind is the freshest. After that, you're gonna have lunch, you're gonna have your mid-afternoon crash, and then that 2:30 feeling comes rolling around. You know, your belly's full, you start crashing. This is what you should do. You should schedule your home workout for 2:30 p.m. because when your body starts to crash, you can snap out of it by moving and sweating, and this reignites those endorphins and gets you out of that mid-afternoon crash. After the workout, you're able to squeeze a couple more of those productive work hours, usually from the last 3:30 to 5 p.m. time. Tip number 6, keep Netflix off in the background. And I know what you're thinking, because I did this when I first started. You say, I'll just put The Office on in the background while I work. What harm could come from that? I'm not watching it, but don't do it. Even if you're not actively watching it, your mind's half paying attention to the show and half to your work. And even if you continue working, it will be subpar at best. Instead, what I like to do is use a tool like brain.fm and play focus music. Another thing I like to do is to play classical music from Spotify or something, because there are actually a lot of studies that show classical music helps to improve brain function. All right, guys, moving on to the last and final tip, take breaks often. I read a quote from Russell Dobda, and this quote said, taking a break can lead to breakthroughs. Have you ever tried to come up with a really creative or good idea about something and just like no light bulbs were going off, and then like on a random drive or a workout, it's just like ding, 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 like I got an idea. Sometimes those long bouts of work can actually hinder creativity, and breaks help your mind recalibrate, get out of that left brain analytical mode and into that right brain creativity mode. So just try to get up and walk around every 25 to 30 minutes. I try to do it after each of the Pomodoro sprints. And in addition, it's important for your body, because your body ergonomically is been in one position all day. You maybe had poor posture, your hip flexors get tight, your back gets tight, and it just stretching and walking and all of those things just help keep your posture aligned and keep you functioning properly. What I like to do is take a walk or stretch, take my dog out, or do some sort of meditation just to keep you sane. All right, guys, that's it. Now let me know down in the comments if you have any work from home tips. I would love to hear about any hacks you have, because I'm always looking for hacks that I can implement in my workflow. So drop your best tips in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. All right, peace.